Hey guys, today we're going to talk about improving your line art again. I know we already went over a couple of exercises, but today I wanted to give you a few tips that you can do and tools you can use to improve your line art quickly and easily. The first thing we're going to cover is smoothing and stabilization. Depending on what program you're using, it's called different things. In Clip Studio Paint and Procreate, it's called stabilization. In Photoshop, I think it's called line smoothing or just smoothing. And it's a little bar that you can adjust in each of these programs to get your line a little bit cleaner. The concept is it adds a little bit of delay to your line stroke. So when you're drawing something and you're wobbling a lot or your hand's kind of shaky, it will weed out those little shaky bits just because it's delayed the brush a little bit. In Clip Studio Paint, you want to open a particular brush that you'd like to turn on stabilization for, and then you're going to open the brush properties. If you don't see stabilization here, you're going to go down to the bottom and click on the wrench icon, and that will open the advanced settings. Once you're in the expanded settings, you go to correction, and stabilization should be an option there. If you check next to the little eye, it will enable that in the main tool properties menu, so you can turn on and off anything that you'd like to be able to see in the main tool properties there. Once you have the option available, you can adjust this as much or as little as you'd like. I tend to keep it around 25 or 30 when I'm just doing something like comic work or something like that, that I want a really clean line for. If I'm going for something that I want to basically look like it's vectored, I might turn it up to 100 if I want extremely smooth curves. This does make it kind of hard to use the brush a little bit because you get a little bit of a pulled string effect on it. You have the point of your stylus and it will follow that as if it were pulled on a string. If you're looking for a little bit more sketchy line art or something that has a lot of hatching, I would leave the stabilization off. Or you can turn it off when you're ready to do your hatching and your sketchy bits and have very clean baselines. One of my favorite things to do is to duplicate a brush. You can do that by finding the brush on your subtool menu and then going down to the little plus icon. When you click that, it's going to pop up a little menu that will ask you to name your new brush. I like to keep my names the same and just add smooth or stabilized at the end so that I know which brush it is, where it came from, and then what I've done to edit it. This way I can switch back and forth from my stabilized brush and my not stabilized brush, and I can keep those presets for next time I need them. My next tip is to slow down. If you're working through your line art and you're finding it's not lining up with your sketch the way that you wanted, try taking a step back or taking a little break, coming back and going at it a little bit slower. A lot of the time this can help me really improve the quality of the lines that I'm making and make it line up with my sketch a lot tighter. This is kind of a basic line art tip, but I feel like it's important as a reminder. Don't be afraid to undo and redraw the same line over and over and over again. If you're finding that the line isn't quite doing what you need, you might try rotating or zooming in or out on the canvas to get a better angle on it. If you're really struggling and you're finding that things just look like crap and you're really hating it and you wanted it to be like super, super smooth, you might try the vector line that we talked about in our vector video. In Clip Studio Paint, you can use a vector layer to do your line art, and that will let you go back and adjust the nodes so that you can get basically perfect line art every time. It's not going to be for everybody. I find that the quality of it is a little too clean for my taste, but if that's what you're going for, that's a really good hack. One of the things that you can do along with the exercises from the last line art video is practice doing your lines in one single smooth movement. Practice drawing from the elbow or the shoulder rather than your wrist. That can give you a lot smoother lines, and try to get the lines done in one go. One of the things that kind of revolutionized my line art over the last year is I've started doing a really clean sketch before I do my line art on top of my basic sketch. So I'll do an idea or a foundation sketch, and then I'll do a secondary sketch on top of it in a different color so that I can kind of see the difference really easily. And then I'll go back and line on top of that. So I basically have an overlapping area where I can see what I was intending to get done with the drawing, and I can shoot to get my lines in that area. When you're actually working through the line art phase, you can go back in Clip Studio Paint and clean up with the transparent version of the same brush. When I'm lining, I tend to switch back and forth between the brush that I'm using and the color that I want to line in and the transparent, just to clean up any weird ending bits or extra overflow areas that I have lined outside of where I wanted. I will also go back and thicken up areas where I wanted the line to be a little bit heavier. If it's looking like the line art is too thin in some areas, I'll go back and thicken those up. I also like to go back and thicken areas where the lines intersect. That can have a cool look to it. You can also flip the canvas and rotate, like I was talking about earlier, to get a better angle on the line. This is something that I didn't do for a really long time because Photoshop doesn't make it super easy to do that. You have to learn the hotkeys for that. But Clip Studio makes it incredibly easy, especially on the iPad, because you can just do it with your non-drawing hand. And that makes it really smooth to kind of like zoom in and rotate and flip the canvas and everything that you would need to do to get the perfect angle on the line so that you're not trying to rotate your wrist in a way that's uncomfortable. Now we're gonna go over what to do if you liked your sketch better. Your line art's complete. You look back at the sketch version, you hide the sketch, and your line art just looks like super gross and you hate it and you like the sketch way better. So number one, try lining less clean. Go back and add some of the sketchy scribbly bits to your line art that were in the sketch. Try and make the line art quality look more like the sketch quality. Have a little bit more of that variation in there that you liked about your sketch. Number two, try changing the color of your sketch to sit under the line art and above any like color layers. So you can actually, I didn't even realize that this was a thing. You can actually just leave your sketch in there if it adds to the work. So you can use the clean line art that you did and change the sketch underneath to like a brown or something to sit on top of the skin tone. And it can add a really interesting level to your work that isn't available with just the line art and the color. Number three, evaluate what you liked about the sketch. Is there one eye that you really particularly liked? Is it the sketchy vibe of the piece? See if you can transform the line art that's finished and move things around a little bit to fit with the sketch better. Number four, try cleaning up the sketch, erasing all of the weird bits, and just using that instead of the line art. Maybe the sketch really was better. Maybe the sketch captures some feeling that you needed in the piece that the line art just wasn't getting across. If worst comes to worst, you've tried all of these steps and you're still really not liking what your line art looks like, try changing up the brush. Try changing up the type of brush that you're using. If you usually go for a really monoline pen brush, try going for something with a little bit more variation, like a brush liner. If none of that is working, try using your pencil brush or maybe like an oil painting brush, just really small. Do sort of a study of all of the artists that you really admire. Go look at what their line art looks like. If they've got videos online, or even if they just have an Instagram, go check out what it is that they're doing and evaluate for yourself what you like about their work and see if you can bring a little bit of that across to your work. I hope some of these tips and tricks can help with your line art. Let me know if you have any other really good advice for people who are trying to improve their line art down in the comments below. If you're looking for more content like this, check out my video on improving your line art using line art exercises and redrawing one of my favorite stickers. You can support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing here on YouTube. You can also support me and my projects over on Patreon. This video is brought to you by my amazing patrons, Jesse C., Anthony Jutz, Tara Billie Jean, and Tuna. Thank you guys so much for your support.